That is just astonishing. Primal nature. Well, I'm done with the Yellowstone trip, mostly done visiting my parents, and I'm kind of back on some adventures. I'm joining them right now by a campground little ways outside of Yellowstone, kind of north of Gardner. There's a petrified forest out here with lots of fossilized trees that got buried in volcanic ash. So we're gonna kind of go to that area, wander around and explore with family a bit. Then after that, I'm heading up to Glacier National Park next. Probably stay there 3 or 4 days, do some filming, check out trails, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's gonna be lots of fun adventures ahead.
There's a deep history of volcanic activity in the northwestern United States, where forests of conifer and aspen now stand. 50 million years ago, mountain building triggered repeated eruptions of rock and ash, burying the humid forests in 40 feet or more of debris. The cliffs above us were formed by these explosive events, cementing together rocks of different sizes as the molten material cooled. Though on this trail, most of the trees have been removed by visitors, deeper in the mountains you can find still standing fossilized trees turned to stone by their violent burial. The volcanic destruction of these Wyoming forests happened 27 times, each event separated by roughly 300 years. The forest would rebuild until the mountains came calling, and the landscape would start again.
Alright, well, another day. Camped out last night with my mom and dad. Then we're gonna be head up a trail up to a petrified forest. This whole area around Yellowstone is obviously incredibly volcanic. It has a very long history of various volcanic events. One of those volcanic events took a forest, possibly looking an awful lot like that, and buried it in volcanic ash. 27 of those volcanic events buried 27 forests, as Mom points out, in those events. So let's go check it out. It's gonna be fun.
Of its verdant beauty, this is still the land of volcanoes. As I found orange chunks of petrified wood, I couldn't help but see the forests I was walking through in a new light, a connection to a place in time formed millions of years ago.
So this was very unexpected. This fire right behind me, you can see billowing there. This city is Bozeman, and this is where I got my undergrad. And the M is a place that people will sometimes hike to. And this hillside is currently on fire. You can see some of the flames licking up above the edges and this giant cloud of smoke in the air. That is just astonishing. Primal nature. Alright, so first stop after separating from my mom and dad, who are kind of taking their own pace and going to some places before we check out my brother's performance in Missoula. So I'm at the Missouri Headwaters State Park. So this is actually the area where the official start of the Missouri River begins, right in the Rocky Mountains. So excited to see what kind of stuff is on this trail and do some exploring.
The Missouri River is deeply tied to the West in its history. For over 10,000 years, native tribes have long lived along its shores and sustained themselves from the vast numbers of bison that lived in its basin. The richness of the Missouri River was eventually followed westward by European Americans, who saw it as a key for westward expansion. Manifest destiny, the idea of divine right of ownership of the West by the United States, gripped the country. And after the famous Lewis and Clark expedition explored and mapped out the West from Missouri, countless fur trappers and then settlers followed suit.
Gotta say, even in a place like Montana, in September when people are all running around, it is so hard to find a spot to camp that's somewhat isolated from people on Labor Day weekend. There are just cars all over, RVs all over the place, four-wheelers going up and down the road. But thankfully, you can see by my almost sideways parked car there, it's found a kind of crappy old side road, which is pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna set up my tent on that and should be camped for the night, then on my way to Missoula tomorrow.